Hey guys, it's NIK ARTIST here, and I'm a 2D artist with a passion for trees. Much of my work revolves around capturing the beauty and essence of these natural wonders, so I thought I would create a simple tutorial to help fellow artists dive into the world of digital art. Today I'll show you how to easily draw a realistic tree environment from scratch using Photoshop. Don't worry if you use different software, I'm sure you can still follow along and learn from my steps. Let's get started and bring some beautiful trees to life. Alright, the first step is to create a new layer in Photoshop. Now let's roughly sketch the shape of the tree on the canvas. This process doesn't have to be precise. Keep it rough and simple for now, as we'll add the details later on. Make sure to include the trunk and branches, but don't ignore the leaves. For this tutorial I'll be drawing an oak-like tree with some bushes on the sides to give you an idea of tree from different perspectives. So once you have finished drawing your tree, create a new layer and start adding the colors of the blue sky. Use shades of white and a little gray to create the clouds, and don't forget to add a touch of purple at the very top. We are going for a sunny summer day, so choose bright, vibrant colors. I also added a yellowish tone to the clouds to enhance the sunny atmosphere. Next, sketch out the general masses of the background trees, the meadow and the road that leads to the forest. The road as planned will be sandy with small pebbles, adding a natural and textured look to the scene. Now let's start adding colors to the tree. Choose a brush that you are most comfortable with. I prefer to use a hard brush to draw the main shapes first. I also use brushes from different artists. In this work I used a free brush pack from Fenris Brush. I like the texture of his brush. They are very suitable for creating large masses in the form of bunches of foliage. In the left corner, I've laid out a visual example of the colors I used to create the leaves, from light halftones and various shades of green to deep, dark tones. These colors will bring the tree's foliage to life, with the darker tones reserved for the shadowed areas. As you can see, I placed the tree on a separate layer. This approach allows for quicker correction and adjustment. If you draw everything on a single layer, correcting mistakes can become time-consuming. In my case, I kept the layers simple, one for the landscape and sky and another for the tree. Occasionally, I add intermediate layers when working on the tree, which I can later merge into one. This method keeps the workflow smooth and efficient. Note that I don't draw each leaf individually on the tree. The principle here is simple. The sun shines from above, so the lightest greens will appear on the upper edges of the leaf clusters. I began by sketching the foliage with a medium green tone, then added lighter shades to highlight the upper part of the foliage. For the lowest shadowed areas, I used a darker green. Occasionally, I blend small patches of dark green into the lighter areas to add depth and contrast. This technique not only saves time but also creates a more natural and cohesive look without the need to painstakingly draw every single leaf. And remember, your foreground object should be more saturated in tones than those in the background. This is due to the density of air. While we can't physically measure this density, our eyes perceive it as a softening of distant object. The further away an object is, the less saturated its colors will appear. To illustrate this, simply make distant object a few tones lighter than those in the foreground. For particularly distant elements, use blue or bluish-violet shades, especially when depicting a sunny day. This technique adds depth and realism to your artwork, creating a natural atmospheric perspective. Once I had addressed the contrast between the foreground and background object, I moved on to a more detailed rendering of the tree. I began drawing the branches that peek out from beneath the foliage, as these small details are crucial for adding volume and realism to your composition. I also emphasized the shadow areas on the tree trunk, ensuring it stood out from the sandy road. It's important to differentiate the trunk's color from the road, as they can easily blend together. I'll revisit and refine this at the end of the video lesson, since right now the road and trunk are quite close in color. I'm now working on the shadows cast by the leaves onto the tree trunk. This step really brings out the depth and dimensionality of the foliage and the trunk. Some clusters of the leaves are closer to us from certain angles, while the tree trunk sits further back. And don't forget, some branches are even closer than the foliage. This interplay of what's nearer and further creates that essential sense of depth and volume, making the tree feel solid and real. Now that the tree in the foreground is nearly complete, about 80% finished, my background is starting to look flat. So I shift my focus to the sky, beginning with the clouds. I soften the transitions between the clouds and the blue sky, blending the edges to create a more natural look. To add depth and vibrancy, I enhance the white of the clouds with subtle touches of orange and yellow, giving the sky a warm, glowing effect. I also draw the background of the bushes. I add a little bluish tint to show that this is the background. In some places I created the illusion of leaves of the bushes with a brush, but do not forget that in the background you do not need to draw special details, since your emphasis is on the foreground, on the central composition in the form of a tree. I noticed that the meadow also appeared flat, so I began by sketching the shady areas on the grass. Next, I focused on drawing the side bushes. These bushes are not just placed randomly, they are part of a wings composition, a technique often used by French classical artists in the 18th century. The essence of this composition style is that it directs the viewer's eye to a central focal point first, and then guides it to explore the auxiliary details. In our case, the central object is the tree, with the side bushes serving as complementary elements that enrich the overall composition. In the foreground, I drew the grass using the same principle as with the tree foliage. I began with an intermediate green color, deepened the shadow areas with dark green, and added a bright green shade to highlight the lighter areas. The grass in the foreground has its own density, so light penetrates it poorly. To capture this effect, I drew the grass to resemble a thick, loose carpet, using intermittent lines to suggest the texture and depth. This approach gives the grass a natural, layered look that enhanced the realism of the scene. After I finished the grass, I moved on to the detailed work on the sand road. As you notice, the road isn't straightforward, it slopes at an angle. To capture this incline, I used vertical brush strokes at a 45-degree angle, applying both light and shadow in this direction. Where the road levels out horizontally, I switched to horizontal brush stroke with a hard brush to enhance the realism. I added small stones that gives the road a finished look. Finally, I drew small roots in the road, perhaps left by a bicycle or cart, adding a touch of life and history to the scene. And finally, I focus on refining the small details of the tree. I carefully draw branches and adjust the shadow areas on the tree trunk. adding bark texture that follow the natural contours of the trunk to enhance the realism. I subtly shift the tone of the tree to a grayish brown green at the base, where it meets the ground, grounding the tree and tying it seamlessly into the landscape. And there you have it. Our tree drawing is complete. We walked through each step, from the initial sketch to the final details, and now our tree looks vibrant and realistic. We've explored how to effectively work on leaves, branches, bark texture and lighting to create a natural and impressive appearance. I hope this tutorial was helpful and inspired you to try new creative techniques. If you have any questions or would like to share your work, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm always happy to hear your feedback and answer any queries you might have. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future tutorials and helpful tips on drawing and other aspects of digital art. There is plenty more exciting content to come. Thank you for spending this time with me, keep creating with joy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!